Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a leadership framework that's getting a ton of buzz, and for a really good reason. Our world is more complicated than ever. We're talking about paradoxical leadership. So, if you're a leader, does this sound familiar? You're constantly being pulled between two things that feel equally important, right? One minute you're supposed to be fostering wild innovation, and the next you're getting pressured to maximize efficiency and just get things done. Okay, so here's the big shift in thinking. The research we're looking at today argues that these tensions, they're not problems you can just solve and walk away from. Nope, they're a permanent feature of the landscape now. The real question is, how do you lead through all that? So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at why we need this new approach. Then we'll get into the both-and mindset. After that, the core of it all, the three essential ingredients. Then we'll talk about the traps to avoid, and we'll wrap up with a really important warning about the dark side of all this. All right, first up, why do we even need this new approach? Well, it's because the whole game has changed. Leaders used to be problem solvers, right? You'd find a neat, tidy problem, and you'd fix it. Now it's about being a sense maker in a world that's just full of messy, ongoing contradictions. And the core idea here is something called a paradox. Now, this isn't some tricky riddle. It's just a situation where two opposite ideas are both true at the same time. Think about it. A leader needs to be in control, right? But they also need to be flexible. The real magic, the real challenge is figuring out how to do both at the same time. And believe me, once you start looking, you'll see these paradoxes everywhere in an organization. You're trying to meet individual needs while also hitting company goals. You're chasing this quarter's profits while also trying to invest in long-term growth. These tensions are just baked right into the system. Okay, so if these tensions aren't going away, what do we do? How do we lead? Well, the research points to a powerful answer: paradoxical leadership. And it all begins with a pretty profound shift in how you see the world. This slide right here just nails the difference. On one side, you've got traditional either-or thinking. You see a tension, and you feel like you have to pick a side. It's about finding one right answer. But on the other side, we have both-and thinking. This is where you see those same tensions as opportunities. You hold space for both sides, and you get comfortable with ambiguity instead of desperately trying to find certainty. And this is maybe the most important takeaway from the whole explainer. This isn't about learning a new list of behaviors from a book. You can't just act like a paradoxical leader. It's a real, deep, developmental shift. It's literally about upgrading your mental OS. Okay, so if this is such a deep personal journey, where do you even start? How do you actually get there? Well, that brings us to the real heart of this framework, the three secret ingredients, the things you absolutely have to make this work. Yup, the research is super clear on this. There are just three core building blocks that you need to have in place. And without them, trying to be a paradoxical leader, it just doesn't work. And here they are: cognitive distance, emotional resilience, and vertical meaning-making. I love this breakdown because it's so simple. You need the first one just to see the paradox, the second one to sit with the discomfort it creates, and the third one to actually make sense of it all as an opportunity. Let's dig into each one. All right, ingredient number one, cognitive distance. The metaphor they use for this is just perfect. You have to get off the dance floor and up onto the balcony. You know, when you're on the dance floor, you're just in it, reacting to the chaos around you. But when you get up on the balcony, you can look down and see the whole pattern. That's cognitive distance. Okay, so now you can see the paradox. But just seeing it is one thing. Holding that tension is another. And man, is it uncomfortable. That's where emotional resilience comes in. And this is not about toughing it out or suppressing your feelings. It's about seeing that feeling not as something to run from, but as a signal, a blinking light that says, hey, pay attention, go deeper here. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the real next level stuff, vertical meaning making. This is the big mental leap. It's where you stop seeing contradictions as problems you have to stamp out Instead, you start seeing them as generative. You stop seeing control versus flexibility. Instead, you start asking, how can being more controlling actually enable more flexibility? They become partners, not enemies. So, what happens if you're missing one of these ingredients? Well, it turns out the failure patterns are incredibly predictable. You fall into these really specific traps. This is why you need the whole recipe. Check this out. If you're missing cognitive distance, well, you can't even see the paradox in the first place. You're just stuck on the dance floor. But let's say you have that, but you lack emotional resilience. You see the paradox, but holding that tension is so draining that you just burn out. And finally, without vertical meaning making, you might see it and tolerate it, but you treat it like a simple problem and you miss the massive opportunity for growth that's hidden inside. Now, when you get this right, the benefits for an organization are huge. But, and this is a big but, the research also gives a pretty stark warning about how this can all go very, very wrong. So first, let's talk about the good stuff. When you have genuine paradoxical leaders, you get what researchers call organizational ambidexterity. It's that holy grail of being innovative and efficient at the same time. It builds psychological safety, which boosts knowledge sharing, and makes the whole organization way more resilient and adaptive. But then there's the dark side. The researchers have a brilliant name for it: paradoxical leadership. It sounds like paradox, but it's toxic. This is when a leader weaponizes these ideas. Instead of a both-and situation, they create a neither-or-nor double bind. A trap where employees are totally set up to fail so that no matter what they do, they can be blamed. And this is where our 3 ingredients come back into play. They're not just about being a better leader, they're actually a built-in defense system against becoming a toxic one. A leader who has actually done the work to develop these 3 capacities is just far less likely to fall into that manipulative trap. So to wrap this all up, let's be super clear about the journey. Becoming a paradoxical leader isn't about adding a new skill to your LinkedIn profile. That's horizontal growth. This is vertical development. It's a fundamental upgrade to your mental OS, and that takes real, intentional practice. This isn't something you're going to master in a weekend workshop. And that really leaves us with one massive, critical question to ask ourselves in our organizations. Are we just developing skills, or are we actually committed to growing mindsets? Are we teaching people new techniques, or are we helping them upgrade the very operating system they need to lead in this complex world? And that's our explainer for today. Thanks for digging into this with me. I'll see you on the next one.